The topic I have chosen is Sharia disclosure using a case study of Takaful industry. What we did is we were interested to identify what components are there when investor invest in a Takaful or invest in the Takaful company or buy the policy in Takaful companies. So we approach from a phenomenological perspective. Phenomenological perspective is that you document the experiences of the person you are interviewing. So what we did is we approached the experienced managers of the Takaful companies to understand their understanding from a customer perspective about the Sharia disclosure. There are two different classes of Sharia disclosure. One is a mandatory Sharia disclosure and one is voluntary Sharia disclosure. The mandatory Sharia disclosure is proposed by the Security Exchange Commission of Pakistan, which is must for all Takaful companies. While the literature has identified some other voluntary disclosure elements that if the Takaful companies choose to, they do it, and that literature define certain voluntary disclosure. We were interested to know whether if there are other elements that customer would be interested in. For that reason, we approached the managers of the Takaful company with a certain amount of experiences. So based on the interviews, we did the content analysis, and after content analysis, we identified 4 different elements which, according to the manager, should be a part of the mandatory requirement for the Sharia disclosures. These 4 elements we identify was, the first one was the disclosure of the work fund, because a lot of time these policy buyers, the one who are buying the policies, are interested in the concept of work, who created the work, who is holding the work, how do you distribute different type of payments from the work. So from that manager perspective, using the experiences dealing with the policy maker, the work disclosure is an important element, and this should be a mandatory requirement of the Sharia disclosure. The second one is the interesting one, actually, standardization of Fatwa. So when a policy maker approach a bank manager in the Takaful company, the first question they ask is that the fatwa that you use for the Takaful, is it acceptable by the other maslaks as well, other sectors as well. So they like to have it compared from the other maslak as well. So that is very important. And so the fatwa needs to be also endorsed by the other maslaks, muftis from the other maslak as well, and that would create more trust from the policymaker perspective. The third one is, which are very controversial as well, the amount of wakala fee Takaful companies charges. Usually they are hidden. The Takaful companies are based on a 3-dimension wakala. First is the wakala, the second one is the waqf, and the third one is the mudarba. So usually in the for example, in a family Takaful, the amount is distributed, the profit if they generate it as a mudarba contract, and they charge the fee either to maintain their accounts in all detail, plus for investing that remaining amount beside the waqf funds. So they usually there is proportion 30 to 80-90%. I've heard the wakala fees charged for the first year, so they are interested to know these information as well. And I think this should be, according to our research, should be a part of the mandatory Sharia disclosure to create more trust in the mind of policymakers. The fourth one is the public profile of the advisors. They are interested not only who they are, but they're also interested their status in the view of other people in the society. So they're interested in their qualification, their acceptance in other maslaks. So the last one requirement is that the Takaful companies not only have to share their brief profile, but a very detailed profile of his or her affiliations in industry, their perspective from a different other sects, to create trust in the policy makers. So these 4 elements, let me repeat it again: Waqf disclosure, standardization of fatwa, wakala fee, and advisory public profile are 4 other elements that we identified according to our research should be the part of the mandatory Sharia disclosure. Thank you very much.